Perhaps unsurprisingly, the story continues to dominate the headlines around the world. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the newspapers and bring in our reporter, Stephanie Prentice, who joins me now. Stephanie, you've picked out a few here. Let's start with the Express and these pictures of Prince William and Princess of Wales staying longer than planned and clearly quite moved, at some points quite distressed, but also being very open with well-wishers, weren't they, about the impact of this on them personally?
Absolutely. They were incredibly candid, actually. They were in Sandringham and Prince William shared this sentiment which the Express have led with. The Queen was like everyone's grandmother. And actually, that isn't an exaggeration. What we've been hearing all week from people that have been in the queue that we've been monitoring is the Queen is like my mother, my grandmother, I've grown up with her. People feel that familial connection with her. And William was being very candid with the people that he spoke to. He said, this week's been very difficult for me. It evoked memories of his mother dying and having to attend her funeral when he was young. He also said to someone that was emotional, don't cry now, you'll start me.
Oh,
which for him, it's very casual for him. And one sentiment he said that I wanted to pick out is, he described this as one of those moments where you kind of think to yourself, I'm prepared, but you're not that prepared. And actually quite a few people we've spoken to this week have said the same thing. Yeah. They had a strong response, stronger than they thought. And people that have gone to the queue have said, I never thought I'd find myself here, but I felt compelled to come and pay my respects. And Kate also, she was very candid too. She said, we're very tired, but the crowds are keeping us going.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? I mean, you know, everyone knew the age of the Queen and so on. And you know, and this echoes what goes on in people's lives at home, that you can prepare for a moment, but you can't stage manage grief. And this is sort of what we've been seeing on a mass scale. So it is interesting that it's sort of captured the mood of the nation. Let's turn our attentions to the Sun and this one here. So, Prince Harry can now wear a uniform. The palace saying this is not a U-turn, but a one-off granted by his father, King Charles. Tell us more.
Well, somebody on the Sun's graphic design team has captured the fact that this has been flip-flopping. They've gone, Harry can wear a uniform, so it means he'll be allowed to wear it tomorrow for a vigil, and that's by the Queen's coffin as she's lying in state. Now, as we know, uniform to the royals is very important. It's very symbolic. Harry did move away from being a senior royal. He moved away and he lost the right to wear it, but now we know he will be able to. It's being described as a one-off decision by the King as a mark of respect. And we know Harry did do 2 tours of Afghanistan. He said earlier in the week via a spokesperson that his decade of service isn't determined by the uniform that he wears, but now we know he will actually be able to wear it.
And he's not the only one. Of course, this comes after Prince Andrew, who also lost his titles for different reasons, the fallout of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, was given special dispensation to wear his naval uniform at a similar vigil. And that is very much on the minds of the people at The Guardian at the moment. And I'll just bring up this story here for us as well, so you can tell us what's been said about that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that can't be stressed enough. Prince Harry stepped away from his royal duties. Prince Andrew lost his titles due to that association with the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Now, he, of course, has always strongly denied allegations against him, but the palace did decide to take away his titles due to what was going on. Now, what's happened over in the US, which The Guardian have picked up on, is that some of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein are saying the Duke of York had stepped away from public view. We hadn't seen him for a really long time, and now he's in the limelight. And victims are finding that very hard to deal with, according to their lawyers. Now, Marianne Wang, she represents some Epstein survivors, as they identify. She says it's beyond shameful to see Andrew being granted any form of state-sponsored honour or privilege, given his affiliations with Jeffrey Epstein. And also, one of her partners, Aurora DiCarlo, has also added, the images of Prince Andrew being adored can give the impression that all has been forgiven, and that could have a deterrent effect on victims who want to speak out. So The Guardian picking that up, and we haven't actually really seen that explored much this week, so interesting from them.
No, interesting. And also, you know, there has been a bit of a divergence between, you know, the international media and certainly the US press and the sort of the blanket coverage and pretty much uniformly positive coverage that we've seen in the UK. So interesting that this is coming out now in The Guardian. let's turn our attention to other stories, because there are other stories, there are other things going on in the world. And this is something that our business editor Simon Jack was talking about, this story that's on the Daily Star about bankers and this U-turn here. I mean, there is this issue, isn't there, about in this country about sort of one rule or an understanding that there might be one rule for one set of people and another for everyone else. And so this is about the new business secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, potentially looking at scrapping a cap on bonuses. And this was brought in, wasn't it, during the aftermath of the financial crisis. How is this going to go down with people?
Well, you're absolutely right. It's a very evocative topic. Everyone tends to have an opinion on bankers here. So the Star are saying mega rich bankers will get even richer if the new Chancellor changes rules to outlaw their bonuses. And over on page 9, there is a little bit more detail. Nothing's been decided as yet, but as you said, caps on those massive bonuses were introduced during the 2008 financial collapse. If they're taken off, it's just not going to be popular. No,
well, absolutely. And I think, you know, this goes to the heart of it, doesn't it, about this this debate on how best to boost growth in this country. And the fact that, you know, the Truss government is potentially looking at taking huge political risks to do that. And the idea being, of course, rich people pay more tax, and so therefore it will end up back in the system. But I don't know if you saw this, there was a comment here, where was it? On the sideline here. From the Daily Star saying, if you want to help the bankers, maybe start with the food bankers. Which
actually quite good.
Which I thought was pretty good. OK, so the Eye, another story, different story. Energy, of course, this is the thing that everyone is struggling with at the moment. And of course, the very, very sad news about the passing of the Queen on Thursday. But earlier on in that day, we were getting all the announcements about what was going to happen to save this country from the cost of living crisis later on in the week. So here there's some criticism that the help is too little too late.
Yeah, so all this is happening against this backdrop of everything rising, costs rising for normal households and also for businesses. And what's being said is that packages can't come soon enough, but they're being delayed, and of course delayed further by what's going on at the moment. So over on page 18, that does get outlined a little bit more. As you said, they're saying energy help plan is too little, too late. Industry leaders are basically saying that by the time the plan comes in, a lot of small to medium-sized businesses could have gone under now. We know ministers are working towards an energy support package. They're saying it might be out Wednesday or Thursday, but that also isn't confirmed. But we do know that businesses are facing astronomical energy costs. And what this says is it could leave thousands of small businesses out in the cold.
And just as I was sort of flipping through the pages, I just saw this. I don't know if you can pick it up on the shot here about strangers finding friendship in the long wait to pay their respects. And we're going to go back to what's sort of happening with the Queen and with lying in state. It's not going to be long, is it, before we hear the sort of the first proposal or the first couple that met in the queue.
There's actually been call-outs on Twitter already. I've seen it.
Oh, really?
Journalists being like, did you meet in the queue? Get in touch.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. OK. So I'm sure we'll hear some of that. Also, the story in The Times about what's going to happen next, and some really nice detail here about people, ordinary people who've been called up and said, you want to join? You want to come to the state funeral? So we've got, what, 183 volunteers who got a call out of the blue to join the likes of Biden.
Yeah.
At the funeral on Monday. Tell us more.
Something out of a film. Lovely title. Pandemic heroes will mix with presidents. And as you know, the Queen had a massive hand in all this. This would have been probably her decision. And we know there's 183 volunteers, and they've been describing to the Times the surreal moment they were invited to the funeral. Now, they include an 88-year-old woman who records talking books for the blind, a campaigner against knife crime, and a lifeboat volunteer who saved 13 people from drowning. Now, the Times do focus on one person, and we'll just get through her quickly. Nancy O'Neill, a nurse from Bradford. She's worked for the NHS for 41 years. She said she got a call while she was getting her car fixed. And she quickly ran out, bought 2 outfits, and she said she feels trepidation. People like Joe Biden will be looking at me thinking, what is this little woman doing at the back?
Well, she's I'm sure, just as welcome, of course, as anyone else. And apparently she's going to be in her high heels for the first time in 3 years. The NHS featuring prominently in this final farewell, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. They'll be part of the procession. They will follow the coffin, at one of the points, along with the Canadian Royal Guard. And that'll be an NHS Heroes kind of thing with some of the people that helped out during the pandemic.
Brilliant. OK, Stephanie, thank you so much. It was great. A whistle-stop tour around all of those papers.